round of that. David, Sophia, Dee, Chris, Becca, John, Trisha, and Ron, thank you. Some people say, Barbara, how long are you going to do this? I'm going to do this till we can hold it in our hands. Are you ready to be free? Yes. And take a deep breath, and we'll do our treatment for freedom together aloud. I speak my word for myself, my center, and all its members and friends. I know love as the only reality. I am created out of love. Love is what I am. I know this love as absolute freedom in every area of my life, the life of my center, and all who call it home. I know our center's mortgages are paid in full, and I claim for all of us financial freedom with all debts paid and cleared. I release any sense of struggle or wrongdoing. I live in an abundant universe where there is more than enough for all. We experience freedom in every moment by always having more than enough money, vibrant health, and loving relationships. We are who we have come here to be. With hearts open wide, we see the world through the eyes of love. We are blessed, we are rich, and we are free. And so it is. And we do this by practicing our points of power. I always pay attention. I always tell the truth and tell it quickly. I always ask for what I want when I want it. I always take total responsibility for my experience. And I always keep my agreements. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, John Waterhouse.
Okay, hi everybody. Hey. Barbara and I, as you probably know, we're out in Salt Lake City because we've already talked about it. We were with several hundred of our colleagues having a wonderful time, working pretty hard, and doing some business. So I wanted to kind of let you in on some of the things that happened while we were there. Here's the news from Spiritual Living Convention. Reverend Michelle Wadley was elected. She's from Center for Spiritual Living in North Jersey. She was elected to the Leadership Council, so she is our newest Leadership Council member. Also, Barbara set down her position on the Ministers' Council after serving for 3 years, and she is replaced on that council by Dr. Harry Morgan Moses, who is the Senior Minister at Spirit Works in Burbank, California. So Harry's going to be doing that, and apparently he's already having his impact on all those people. We knew that was going to happen. And then we have 2 new members serving with Charlie on the Practitioner Council. They are Deb Haas, Center for Spiritual Living, Prescott, Arizona, and Barbara Gilfillan, who is with Concordia Center for Spiritual Living in Warwick, Rhode Island. So I know you don't know these people, but I wanted you to see their faces and know that good people have stepped into leadership. Yes, we did manage to have some fun while we were out there, and I wanted you to get a sense of that. So we were reading. I'm a big reader. Actually, don't you notice how small my head looks in that picture? But we did enjoy one another while we were out there. So that all went very well. Our time together for sure. And as I'm sure all of you have figured out, there was a voting on 2 resolutions that restructured our organization again. And we no longer, as of tomorrow midnight, will have a president in our organization. So I won't be that. Oh no, it's a good thing. Mostly because I'll be around here a lot more. I do have another job. It's called field leader. I'm still working at the executive level. I just have responsibilities over things like ethics and licensing and education and some important parts of our organization, but I'm not involved in running home office in Golden anymore. So it's all good. It's all wonderful. And with that being the case, I thought it'd be, there's one other thing that I want to share with you that really was a wonderful thing for me. Since you've been in this teaching, and you've come to classes, and you've heard Barbara and I speak, and we've spoken of spiritual principles, haven't you wanted to ask, can I get a list of those, please? Is there somewhere where I can go find a list so that I can know what these principles are? People are laughing because they did that. I'm here to tell you that we now have a list. Let me tell you how it came about. The education department is restructuring everything internally. We're changing the way classes work, the length of classes, how we're engaged in classes, the whole idea. The last 4 years, and it was a slow start, but a good bit of time for the last 4 years we spent on figuring out how we wanted to do it differently. And now we're moving into the time where we're actually going to populate this structure with classes, with curriculum. And it was very clear that to do that, we had to know what these principles were. And we all claim we know what, people go, well, that's not a principle. Which one? So, actually, they've identified 10 principles. I know. But it's okay. They're all one. But we're going to look at those today. That's what I want to share with you today is what the education, and I was actually on the team. The education committee did this. And we grappled, and we talked, and we changed, and we wordsmithed, and we did all kinds of stuff. And we came up with 10. You'll be surprised by some of them. Some of them you won't. But let's just go ahead and go through the list, because that's what we're going to do today. What do you think? Number 1. Oneness. Whatever that means. Because we live in a duplicitous world. Yet we come here, and I believe that we are probably the only Western theology, philosophy that actually is based, and not just science of mind, but new thought, is based on this idea of oneness. And then I go to a conference and somebody's praying to Mother, Father, God, it drives me nuts. Because the idea is that this divine presence, this creative force that created everything in the universe, dwells at the point of us. There's only one thing going on. It's everywhere. It cannot not be somewhere. It's everywhere. That's the idea. And then someone said the other day, this is biblical, that if we are created in the image and likeness of God, why aren't we invisible?
That's a really good point.
Listen, I got your number today. I'm going to get you a lot. Here's the answer. We are invisible. Everything that you see in life is an animation of life. It's not life itself. Life is invisible. The divine is invisible. It's not part of the physical universe. And that'll become clearer to any of you that don't know a lot about how the science of mind is structured as a philosophy as we go through this. But the idea is that you're not your body. If you're not your body, then you must be invisible. Because that's all I see. Yeah. So the idea of oneness is not a place that you just get and you're done with. We all continually seek to understand how in a world that seems so separate, where I seem to be here and you seem to be there, how does that work in oneness? It does. It works perfectly in oneness. And if you're aware of it, and you accept that as the primary premise of this teaching, you'll start seeing it. You'll start seeing it when the person next to you speaks the words that are in your mind. You'll start seeing it when an emotional feeling that you have is exactly matching someone else in your life. There really is only one. And it's happening simultaneously everywhere and always. One thing Thomas Troward, one of Ernest Holmes' teachers, said that the infinite, existing as an infinite, must exist completely at every point. Meaning that all of God is in you. All of God is you. And all of God is the one next to you. That's a powerful notion. And it is number 1 on our list of hits. Yes. Oneness. The primary principle of the science of mind. Number 2 is love. Actually, on my personal values, love is number 2. Clarity is number one. So, in fact, in our center, as we figured out our values, love was number two. Not to say that love is not important. In fact, I call love the presence of God, the presence of the divine. What did Holmes call love? He said love is the self-givingness of God. It is that which God gives to God, which means that is that which I give to you and you give to me. And really, love is so present. I heard a shaman from Mexico once describe love as the glue that holds the universe together. And I think, physically that may well be so. Because when we get centered and we set down anything that would be a distraction and we focus on love, it's everywhere. It doesn't matter who's close by. Love is present, right there, right then. It's in us, it's all around us. We can't be denied it. And if it's that present, then no one can withhold it from us. Because love is love and it's everywhere. It's the presence of the divine. So love is number two. Number three is the threefold nature of the divine. No, it is not the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. You've all seen the symbol, right? So imagine it doesn't have that thing that looks like a V in the middle of it. What do you got? You've actually got those two bars that go across the whole thing, and that's the symbol that describes the triune nature of the divine. The top part of that circle is the idea of the infinite and invisible presence of God. The piece in the middle between the two bars is called law. And law is the mechanism that takes thought and turns it into physical form. How does that work? I have no idea. But it does. Because when you think something is so, does it not show up in your life one way or another? It always does. And it's your thought in the top of that model that creates that initiation of creation, taken by the thing we call spiritual law and turned into the bottom part of that, which we call effect, or the body of God, meaning everything that we can see and touch and taste and smell and hear. Everything that is available to us, even beyond those 5 senses, that we can observe in physical form, is created by thought through the law. That's the trifold nature of God, but we have to go to number 4 to get it, because what I just described to you is the process. It is the process. So every time you have that thought, again, it goes through the law to be created into physical form. That's the model that we believe exists. And whether we've made that up or not, it seems to work. It seems to work all the time. So that's why we say it's so important to be mindful of what you think, because you're creating with your life with all of your thoughts. Now, it's so funny to meet people that have no idea what we do here and have them tell you about all their problems as though it's some kind of badge of courage, and they don't get that they're going down a rabbit hole with those thoughts. They're creating those as conditions in their lives. And they don't get that. They don't get it consciously, but their situation keeps getting worse and worse. Why would that be? Well, maybe because that's all they think about. So we're here to learn how to think about something different. So in our case, I don't know how to work the button on this, but let's look at that thing that looks like a V. It's not a V. It's absolutely not a V. What it is, it's a point that starts in the mind of God, which is where we think, in that invisible realm, through law, through that mechanism, into physical form. The other side of that is us observing the thing in physical form and thinking it again. It's like it goes back up into the invisible and we go, well, that must be the way it is. And suddenly it happens again. And it happens again. I do not believe that God created the heavens and earth. I believe that the divine is creating the heavens and the earth constantly, all the time. That it's not that it was there and that it just stands on its own. It's constantly in a state of being manifest. And that's what we do with our thoughts. Because we have thousands of thoughts every day. That's what's creating our lives. Because if we didn't have that, we'd only have a few thoughts. The rest of the time we'd just walk around. That's not how it works. Our mind is cranking all the time. And it's not in our head, it's someplace else. But the idea is that our thinking creates our experience. That's why the triune nature of the divine and the creative process are so important as principles in our teaching. Yeah, Barbara and I had a little problem with this one. and I argued my point hard, but they wouldn't hear it, the other people on the committee. Barbara and I believe there's only one spiritual law, with many names. It's sort of like God. You know, there's one divine presence with many names. And we believe that that's true of the spiritual law as well, is that we give it lots of names. The law of cause and effect, the law of attraction, the law of compensation, the law of correspondence. What other ones have you got? Anybody? The law of reflection. See, there's lots of names for it. You can buy books that have all these spiritual laws. They're all the same law. It's just looking at it from a different perspective. So they wanted to keep that because they want to teach all those different laws. But there's really only one. And it's the one I described in the process. It's the fact that that law takes whatever we think and it suddenly becomes the reality of our lives. So yes, these principles overlap, but they kind of interlink in how they create this fabric of our teaching. So the idea of spiritual law is important, and it is the center of the model that we use. It starts to get interesting. If you're into Buddhism at all, this sounds weird, that we would have goodness as a principle. But I have to tell you, Ernest Holmes wrote that word good a lot. Everything that he wrote was about the goodness of life. And you know, I kind of get it. If we're going to use that word God in our lives, that word God comes from good. It was the early pilgrims of the Christian faith when they went into the Germanic world. Someone at one time was asked, so who is this deity that you believe in? And the answer was, it is good. And it turned into God. So the idea that God is good, we have to do that without having a bad, though. Recognizing that the presence of God is not balanced between good and bad, that there is only good. And our job is to find the good in all that we have in our lives. And it's true. It's true. Being unelected as president, when I still had 2 years on my term, I could make that bad. I could see that as wrong, and I was just done wrong, and I'm a victim, and I could play all those kind of games. That's just not true. The higher reality is that it's a really good thing. It's a good thing to be home. It's a good thing to be working on other projects that are really calling to me. It's a good thing to have done what I've done and now to do something else. How could that be bad? Yeah. And that's true in every aspect of your life. Whatever you would call bad is good. Your job is to find the good in it and to allow that to impress upon the law and show up in your life just that way. That's how this works. So the idea of good. Let me check my notes here and make sure I don't have something important here to share with you. Spirit is inherently good. We live in a life-affirming universe, and we are evolving to even greater good all the time. That's the goodness. Eternal life. Boy, doesn't that sound Christian? Well, here's the deal. You don't need to be saved. You already have eternal life. Life has no beginning and no end. We say it every week in our identity prayer. There is no beginning to us. There is no end to us. We are the presence of the divine. Therefore, we are eternal. Our bodies are not. Our bodies will take a different form. I don't know if it's dust, but it's something. But our life, that we are, is eternal forever and ever, expanding and evolving. And I love that. I love knowing that. I can live my life that way, not thinking I'm missing out on something. Because how many lifetimes will I have? Not just on planet Earth, but there's a whole universe out there. And you got to know there's other life forms in this universe. And how many universes are there, or multiverses? You know, what's out there? We have no idea. There's plenty to do out there. So let's live it that way. Let's be totally present in the now and do what we came to do here, but know that there's no end to this game. It just has different chapters, and unlimited chapters at that. Eternal life forever and ever. Not a bad concept. The principle of spiritual beings is that is what we are. We are spirit. We are not our bodies. We are not our emotions. We are certainly not our circumstances. We are spiritual beings, being of that divine presence that dwells in, through, and as all things. We have the distinct advantage, at least it would appear, to know this consciously. Now, who knows? Maybe the trees know that they're eternal spiritual beings. Maybe they do. Maybe because they just can't tell us. And we have to find it out on our own. But this is the kind of place where we come and start to recognize our divinity so that we can live in that and live by that in everything that we do. It really changes the whole formulation of life when you realize that just because you were born into a body and because you're going to set that down someday, that there's no sense that that is a beginning or an end. It's simply a change point in our lives. And that we come here to do extraordinary things, and they all begin with our thoughts. Every thought we have is a creative force. Every thought we have is going through the law, impressed upon the law, and turned into something in our lives. If we use that, then our bodies are healthy, and our lives are meaningful, and we do what we have come here to do, and we are being who we have come here to be as spiritual beings. That's 8. I like this one, especially being as I wrote a book called 5 Steps to Freedom. And the idea of this one is simply that we are completely at free will to do whatever we want. And because of that, I want to invite you never to fall into judgment about what you see somebody else doing. Never fall into judgment because somebody is miserable, somebody is hurting. Nothing wrong with having compassion, but don't buy into them being anything less than you. They are the presence of the divine, having a spiritual experience in all that they're doing. But if you know that you don't have to go through that, and you do know that, agreed? You know that?
Yes.
Good. You can live the life of your dreams. You can impact the human experience. That's what's real. That's what's meaningful. That's what makes a difference on planet Earth. We are free to experience life fully and richly and abundantly everywhere and always. Read that article by Edwin Gaines. She'll remind you of that and what a prosperous world we live in. We are free also to struggle, to be confused, to be angry, to feel pain. We are free to do all of that. It's a choice. It's always a choice, remember. And our final one, heaven on earth. Heaven is a state of consciousness. We choose it, or we choose not to have it. One could say hell is as well, but we're not going to focus on that one. We're going to focus on the idea that we can live a joyous, full, rich, wonderful life. It's our choice. It's our consciousness. It's the way we organize our world. It's whether we see the glass half full or half empty. It's whether we see the flow in our lives or we see blockages. What we see is what we get. What we believe is how it turns out. This is a blessing. Even if you're hearing this and going, then why is my life so hard? I invite you to stop asking that question and instead have the freedom to experience heaven by saying, what do I want to do now? And what will happen is your life will shift into that beautiful blossom. It is who you have come here to be, to do what you've come to do. And life will work for you. Wow. We have principles, and we have them on the list. And there it is in the style. What do you know? Huh? Now, I'm not going to suggest to you this is going to last like just in this form forever, but right now that's where we are. As a spiritual movement, Science of Mind says these are the spiritual principles that we choose to live by, that we seek to experience in our lives every day. This is who we want to be in the world. Not bad. I like it a lot. And we also did practices, which obviously there is no time to share in any list, but just go ahead and gander at that for a moment. These are the tools that we use to experience those principles. They are spiritual mind treatment, meditation, visioning, affirmations, mindfulness, giving and receiving, gratitude, forgiveness, and sacred service. Good list too. Maybe we'll talk about that one day. But for now, we leave it at this idea that we are a principled teaching. We know what we believe, and we live by those beliefs to create the meaningful life that is ours to live. And we can all do it, and we can do it well. You can do it well, Dorothy Leahy. You've shown us just how to do that for a lot of years. Yeah. As as did Francis, your husband, for the whole time that he was here with us, and will all of us do this good work together. Our job is to support one another and to lift one another up, not to find fault in what we do, never to say what you did was out of principle, but to call people into those principles in their lives, lovingly, joyously. And by doing that, we will continue to rise up as a great force in the world for the thousands of people that go to our website every month to learn more about who we are. You're in that too. We're in this together and we're making a difference in the world, and I love you. Thank you so much.